Introduction. Have you ever wondered what consciousness is? What does it mean to be conscious? How would you describe the sensation that you think and feel? What happens when you realize that you exist? These are questions that have puzzled humanity for millennia. We live with them every day, but rarely do we stop to consider what lies behind this mysterious ability, the ability to be aware. Everyone knows what we call consciousness, but what it truly is, no one knows for sure. Today, we're going to dive deeper into these questions. The history of consciousness. The background music slightly changes tempo, adding a sense of time travel. How long has humanity been asking the question about consciousness? Plato, the great philosopher, believed that our mind and soul belonged to a realm of ideas, and the material world was merely a reflection of those ideas. For him, consciousness was something eternal, beyond time and physical limitations. In contrast, René Descartes, in the 17th century, coined one of the most famous philosophical principles, cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. This statement became the foundation of European philosophy, emphasizing that thought and consciousness are proof of our existence. However, over time, people began to view this question from different perspectives. In religious teachings, such as Christianity, the soul and consciousness were seen as divine gifts. In Buddhism, consciousness is viewed as something fluid, without a permanent essence. Consciousness, from the viewpoint of various traditions, has always been not just a philosophical question, but a subject of theological reflection. All these theories attempted to explain what consciousness is. But can we really describe what happens in our mind? The scientific approach to consciousness. Sounds of neurons firing or electrical activity begin to play softly in the background, setting a slightly intense atmosphere. As we moved into modern times, science began to take its turn in explaining this phenomenon. Today, we know that consciousness is linked to the functioning of our brain. But how exactly? How do tiny electrical impulses and chemical reactions give rise to our perception of the world? How do billions of neurons and synapses create the feeling that we are here, that we are aware? In recent decades, neuroscience has made tremendous progress in understanding how the brain works. We study neural networks, which, much like complex computer systems, process information and shape our perception. This has allowed scientists to get closer to uncovering some aspects of consciousness. But the most fascinating thing is that despite all the advances, we still don't know how molecules and impulses create subjective experience, that very self within each of us. And what happens when we fall asleep or wake up? We often say we don't remember our dreams, but that doesn't mean our consciousness disappears. We continue to exist, albeit in a different form. So what does it mean to be conscious in this sense? Modern paradoxes and questions. Tone shifts to a more philosophical one, and the music becomes more atmospheric. There are even more complex questions. For instance, can we be sure that our perception of reality is reality in the full sense of the word? Perhaps we are simply creating an illusion of awareness through our brains? Think about what happens when we lose consciousness, such as during an injury or while sleeping. How does our perception of reality differ when we are awake and when we are asleep? There's also a deeper philosophical question related to free will. If our brain is merely a collection of chemical processes and neural connections, can we really talk about free will? Or are our actions predetermined by biological and physiological laws? Technological progress and artificial consciousness. Sounds of computers or artificial intelligence begin to play softly in the background. Today, we've entered an era where technology is beginning to ask new questions about consciousness. What if we create artificial intelligence that possesses consciousness? Will it experience its own thoughts? Will this artificial intelligence be aware of itself the way a human is? This brings up new philosophical and ethical questions that we are still unable to answer. And if one day we are able to create artificial consciousness, what will that mean for us as humans? How will we relate to beings that possess the same sense of self, but may never have been born in a biological body? Practical applications of reflection. The tone becomes more personal, inviting reflection. Now, let's think about how all these questions might affect us. How does our awareness, our understanding that we exist and that our perception of reality is subjective, change the way we live? When we become aware of our thoughts and actions, it opens up a new way of interacting with the world and with others. Perhaps understanding our own nature will help us realize that not all answers lie in the realm of material science. To be conscious means not just to observe but to actively participate in the world around us. Conclusion. Gentle, inspiring music plays in the background. So, what is consciousness? There are many answers to this question, and none of them are final. We are still on the path of discovery, and perhaps the journey itself holds the key, the journey of questioning. The history of humanity is a history of searching for meaning, and we will likely continue to ask these questions and seek answers for a long time. In the meantime, let us remain open to reflection and allow ourselves to ask the deepest questions about what it means to be aware. For perhaps it is in these questions that the very essence of our existence lies. Smooth outro, fading sound. This script is now in English, and it includes all the elements from the original version that can be used by the Pictor neural network to create a visually engaging video. I recommend using appropriate animations or visuals to represent abstract concepts like the brain's neural networks, the historical context of philosophers, the flow of electrical impulses, and philosophical paradoxes to keep the audience engaged throughout the video.